probably within my first day of pickup, but I was okay with that. I love basketball, passionate about it. Came from
Today on the show, I have former college hooper at Loyola University in Maryland and the current director of basketball operations for the University of Memphis men's basketball. Garrett Kelly is up next. Welcome back to the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I'm your host, Sandy Adams, and this is where we dive deep into the stories of retired athletes, their perseverance, their resilience, their career pivots, and finding the passion they crave. So grab your iced tea because I'm from the South. Get ready to be motivated and inspired because this is where the real stories are told. Today's guest is a retired basketball player and graduate of Loyola University in Maryland and the current director of basketball operations for the University of Memphis men's basketball program. Welcome to the show, Garrett Kelly.
Thanks for having me, Sandy.
You're quite welcome. Okay, we know each other because I'm VP of the Rebounders, and you're, what is it called? DOBO? Is that the abbreviation for it?
Director of basketball operations. That's right.
Yes. Okay, so let's dive in because I know you guys are busy. This is recruiting season. You got a lot going on. We're not going to talk about that. But let's just start off with how you really started your fifth quarter. You played basketball at Loyola. And what was your mindset going into your senior year? Like, were you thinking about basketball after college or were you thinking about something else?
No, I was ready to get involved in coaching. I mean, obviously, I tried to enjoy my senior year as much as possible, but once I made it to college and started playing college basketball, I realized I was not going to make the NBA. That became really clear, probably within my first day of pickup. But I was okay with that. I love basketball, passionate about it. Came from a basketball family, and I just knew it was in my bones. It was what I was going to do, and it was just a matter of can we have the best possible senior year as we can, and then start a coaching career right after that.
So, when did you actually pick up a basketball? You said you had a basketball family. Like, when did you pick it up? Do you remember?
I couldn't say, but it was always around sports since being an infant, and I remember playing basketball as 6, 7 years old, going to camps,
Right.
learning from my dad. My dad played in college as well, and it's just encourager. My mom's a teacher, and just constantly around the game, around sports, around trying to learn, and yeah, so it just stuck with me.
Do you remember a time when you just realized you fell in love with basketball?
Yeah, I think right from the beginning, just being around a team, playing youth ball, getting into middle school, high school, going on road trips, developing friends, growing up, becoming a young man. Being around the sport, being around the game, being around competition, it's just something that I don't know what I'd do without it.
Where did you grow up at? Because you're not from Memphis.
No, no, I was born in New Haven, Connecticut, and then I moved down. My family moved to Asheville, North Carolina when I was in, I guess it was sixth grade, 11 or 12 years old, and grew up there, and then been moving
I
around.
did not know that you're from Asheville. That's a beautiful area. Absolutely
It is.
beautiful.
It
The
is.
movie The Last of Mohicans was filmed there.
That's right. That's
Uh,
right. And
Been up to
Dirty Dancing, not far from there. Like, whoa.
That's right. That's right. It's also quite humid. Yes.
Yeah, it can be. It's in the mountains, so you get 4 seasons. You get some snow. You get a beautiful
Yeah.
fall. It can get cold, but it also can get pretty warm and muggy. But it's a beautiful place, lovely
Yeah.
people, and it's been growing like a weed for about 20 years now. So it's been fun to see it turn into a popular destination.
Did you play any other sports? I know a lot of the athletes that have been on here. I was surprised that they actually started off playing a different sport.
I played soccer, golf, football. My family is just athletic. I had an older brother. My dad was a kind of a youth coach and a big sports guy. So, we're just constantly every day. We had no video games allowed in the house. So we were outside every day.
Oh, I
Out,
like your parents.
oh yeah, out in the street, out at the courts playing pickup basketball, pickup football, baseball, soccer, golf, tennis, whatever we could get our hands on, and just constantly trying to compete and have fun and play.
Of course, I'm going to age myself a little bit because I didn't have video games. They weren't around when I was little, but that's okay. Okay, so you said that when you started your first pickup game in college, you realized you weren't going to go to the NBA.
That's right.
What specifically like gave that away?
Just speed. We had a weight training session right before, and I had been trying to get stronger. I'm a lean guy, so I'd been told I had to gain weight. So I was constantly trying to
Right.
take supplements and lift weights and get stronger and get myself to become a Division I athlete. And it was the hardest weightlifting session of my life. I couldn't move my arms, and we came
Wow.
out, guys. Our best player was perfectly
Right.
fine, just making shots and able to move and react and play. And it's just something that my body could never really keep up with. But I knew I loved the game, and I
Right.
knew I was passionate about it, and I wanted to be around the very best. So
So you were a walk-on player for your freshman, sophomore, and junior years.
that's right. I was an invited walk on, so it was kind of like a light recruiting, but they just said, "Hey, if a scholarship opens, we'll give it to you.
Right.
Come up, be a part of the team, and wear the jersey." And that was always looking for us an opportunity.
So do most college programs have walk-on players?
Yeah, typically, I think there's 12 scholarship athletes, and usually have one, two,
Right.
maybe three. We've had a handful of walk-ons these past couple of years. We have Coach Stansberry's son Noah. We have Joe Cooper.
Right.
Uh, Last year we had Connor Glennon. They're typically
Right.
practice players. Obviously they're paying for their school, so
Sure.
they have to be really passionate about the game and playing and being a part of a team. And so
Right.
they're usually a little bit either physically or just skill wise just not quite able
Right.
to be a high level player. But their passion, their ability to be a great teammate, be a great student athlete, is all part of it. And they're usually valuable pieces, but they're just not as you're not going to see
Right.
them start games and score a bunch of points.
I would think though that they are an invaluable part of the team because I mean, in your case, but also with Connor, if you look at, Connor was like the hype man, but he was there during practice and everywhere. And I just think that, there's each part of the puzzle is important.
Absolutely. No, I
And I
think it's usually the last guy on the bench. So your
right,
top player, whether it's your Kendrick Davis, your David Jones, and then your last player, which is your kind of bottom of the bench guys. Those are the ones that if they don't care, it shows a lot
right.
about the organization. But if those guys really care and it really matters to them, it kind of lifts it up from both sides.
So you knew that going into college when you were a freshman. How did that change your perspective on practice and the games and everything going through college? Like what was the value that you felt you brought to the team?
I was a practice player, so we had a scout team every
Hmm.
year. Every game, we'd have a group of players, whether they be red shirts or walk-ons or guys that just don't get to play very much. That we would take, with whatever assistant coach had the scout for that opponent coming up, and we would kind of go off to a side court and learn the other team's plays. We'd learn their player tendencies, and we would basically be that team. When I was in
Right.
school, we'd play teams in the Northeast like Fairfield and Manhattan and Siena and Rider College and Niagara. And so I was the leader of the scout team, me and one of
Right.
the assistant coaches, and we would, watch their video. We would learn about their players and their plays and their tendencies, and then we would go off on the side court, like I said, and we would kind of master those plays over the course of an hour before practice. And then when the rest of the team showed up for practice, we would be ready to simulate what the game's going to be like by kind of enacting like the opposing team coming up.
So that really helped kind of start your coaching career because you were
Absolutely.
getting
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
those skills really early on.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
for somebody out there that is a really good high school player, but is probably not going to be the star of a D1 team. What would be your advice to them on how to approach going to a D1 school versus a D2 school when it comes to
Yeah, I've dealt with a lot of that. I mean, just being in college and then working as a head coach in high school at a boarding school, you deal constantly with parents and players, and
right,
everybody wants to be a Division I player. Everybody wants to be a scholarship player. I think there's 362 Division I teams. There's 12 scholarships on each
right,
team. And you can do the math and break it down to see, and then you can kind of put that up against how many high school players there are and how many high school seniors there
right,
are looking to come out. And then you factor in COVID and the entire NCAA getting a blanket waiver during
sure,
COVID. So
sure.
every freshman through senior got one extra year. And it basically creates a log jam or a backup for high school kids. So I would just encourage high school kids, and I continue to do it to this day when where I'm allowed to. But when I was working at a boarding school as a head coach, is just there's a lot of opportunities to play college basketball if you're passionate about it and you're dead
Right.
serious about it. That there's two levels at NAIA. There's Division III, Division II, Division I. There's junior colleges. Um, there's literally hundreds of thousands of opportunities to play college basketball. And if you're dead set on it, if you're passionate about it, you'll find a spot that wants you
Right.
and that kind of embraces you. If you're just saying you want to be a Division I college basketball player because that sounds cool or that makes it seem like something that it's either that or bust, then more times than
Right.
not, I've noticed that those kids end up not playing.
Right.
But there's a lot of different routes. You can go to a prep school. You can extend your high school career a little bit. You can go to a junior college. If you're good enough, typically they'll find you. I was a stubborn kid. I had Division III offers. I had Division II offers, and I just, in my mind, I wanted to be Division I. So I wouldn't take no for an answer, and I eventually found my way as a walk-on, and then earned a scholarship. But
Right.
I had college coaches me at the time, Division III coaches, tell me, "You're going to be a practice player. You're never going to play," and they were right. I mean, I really didn't have much of a playing career, but I don't regret it. It was part of what I wanted to do, and it was worth the path that I took.
Well, and also I think that there is value in that experience. Probably in some ways more value than if you had gone to a Division III school or
Yeah, I
Division
think
Two
so. I
school.
mean, part of my decision making was I wanted to be around the best. I always have. I want to
Right.
see what the best players, what the best coaches are like, and what those environments are like, and what what that competition's like. So, the college I ultimately went to, the head coach Jimmy Patsos was a former assistant. I'm sorry. Um, was a former assistant at the University of Maryland for
Mhm.
Gary Williams, who's a Hall of Fame coach, and they had won a national championship. And he had coached, I don't know, 25 NBA players that have come through University of Maryland. He left Maryland as an assistant and became the head coach at Loyola just down the road. Much smaller Division I
Right.
school, but he had been around 25 NBA players. He'd been around two Final Fours. He'd been around a national champion team. And so I was just, that was what drew me to him in particular and to their program, was to just, okay, let me see what that was like. Tell me about those
Right.
players. Tell me about their work habits. Tell me about, what type of guys they were, what type of players they were, what were those environments like, and just try to soak it up as much as possible. And it's helped my journey for sure.
So, graduating from college, and you got a communications and public relations degree, correct? Unless the website's wrong.
Yeah, no, that's accurate. I wasn't very focused on school, I'll be honest with you. I was really, really
Most of you guys are not, I'll be
interested
honest.
in basketball, and it's a close to a full-time job in college.
Exactly.
It's around the clock. It's road trips. It's missing class. It's missing tests. It's all summer, and so I treated it like my major. I did learn a lot about communications and public relations that has helped
Right.
me. But I was focused on basketball, and that was the career I was going to be in.
Mhm.
But some of the skills that I learned from the public relations and communication side have become helpful. But in general, I was
Right.
focused on basketball. I knew my career was going to be in that.
Several a lot of the athletes that have been on the show, they've said the same thing, that they didn't really, some of them wanted to take a harder classes and they wanted to major in something harder that required more studying, and they just ended up having to choose, and it ended up being basketball.
Yeah, no, I
So
did not want harder classes. I was
okay, so after college, did you already have a job set up? Because you went to Catholic University in DC.
yep.
Um, did you already have that job set up prior to graduating?
I did. It was a volunteer position. It was
Okay.
Division III school. Catholic University of America is top 25 Division III program. They've won a national championship. My college coach, who had worked at University of Maryland, he lived in Washington D.C. and he kept. They have what's called rent-controlled apartments in D.C. It's one of the most
Oh, yeah.
places in the world to live. But his apartment was rent-controlled, so he kept it in his name for 25 years. He still has it to this day, and he'd rent it.
Smart guy.
Absolutely. He'd rent it out to his friends. So it was one of his former bartending friends lived there, and there was an extra bedroom. And he said, "I'll give it to you for $400 a month," which is, I mean,
Wow.
fraction of the price of what a normal apartment would be. So I had that option. Go work at Catholic U, basically for free. They paid me $1,000 for the entire year. Um, I had that option, and I had the apartment that was affordable. I just had to figure out a way to make some money during the season or off season. And then I had an interview at IUPUI. It's a Division II school. Excuse me, IUP. Indiana University, Pennsylvania, and it's out kind of in the middle of nowhere, central Pennsylvania. And it's a Division II school. They were really good. They had been to the Final Four the year before. It was a paid position. I think it was like 20 grand or something like that. I
Right.
went out there, interviewed. The coach ended up going in a different direction, so simplified my decision making. I went to Catholic U. I bartended. I worked landscaping jobs. I worked at a restaurant and baked bagels, and just
Interesting.
did a little jack of all trades. I made it work, and we had a great year. We won 22 games. We had a honorable mention All American. We had 3 kids All League. We just couldn't get over the hump. Lost in the
Yeah.
conference championship, and didn't make the NCAA's. So
Yeah. So then you moved to a director of basketball operations position at Radford.
yep,
Actually, no.
Radford University is in
Yeah.
Southwestern Virginia. They were in the
Yeah.
Big South Conference at the time. Their head coach is a guy named Mike Jones, who was a part of the VCU team that went to the Final Four.
Right.
And so he got a head coaching job off of that success in the
Right.
state of Virginia. They were a really popular team that kind of were underdogs and made a great Final Four run. And basically everybody on that staff, all the assistant coaches, got head coaching jobs based off of Shaka Smart's success. So Mike got the job at Radford. We had a mutual friend. My first year there, I was video coordinator, and it was technically
Right.
a part-time job. It was, I think, $5,000 for the entire year. Again, small little college town in the foothills of Virginia. I was able to find a cheap apartment, find a couple
Yeah.
extra small jobs on the side, and just make it work. And then he promoted me in my second year to director of ops, which was a full-time job with benefits and a salary, and kind of really started my career that second year. Where
So how did you go from coaching in video to director of operations?
Mhm.
What was there like? Do you prefer one or the other, or is there coaching also involved with director of basketball
Yeah, no,
operations?
they're just all coaching positions,
Yeah.
is how I describe them. You're on the coaching staff, you're responsible for the players, and then it's just kind of departments within the coaching staff of what your focus is.
Sure.
Some coaches are more focused on evaluating and recruiting. Some are a little more focused on scouting opponents. Some are more focused on the budget and the operations and the logistics. The head coach ultimately is responsible for overseeing all
Right.
of that. And you just try to put people in positions where they would be effective. That was just where I could get in. Video coordinator
Yeah.
was my first opportunity to get in. At Catholic University, I got a chance to recruit, scout opponents, put together game plans, help run
Right.
practices and workouts. At Radford, Mike Jones was great. He allowed me to be involved as much as possible. But my main focus, first and foremost, each day
Sure.
was videos on recruits, videos on our upcoming opponents, breaking down game film, getting our coaching staff prepared for the season.
So then you went up to Canada. Is that what came next?
No, I went up to Siena College,
Oh,
which is
that's
state
okay.
New York, Albany, New York, in the capital of New York State, and I worked up there for my college coach. So the
Right.
coach that I played for in college, he left Loyola, and he took the job at Siena College, which is a bigger job. It's like a miniature Memphis, as how I would
Sure.
describe it. There's no professional teams in the town except for like a minor league baseball and minor league hockey, but it's a big city. It's the
Right.
capital of New York State, so it's one of the most powerful cities really in the United States because it passes all this legislation that
Oh, you said Albany, right? I've
yeah,
been there. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
impacts
Yeah.
New York City.
Yeah.
But it's in the middle of the country, and New York's a gigantic state with a bunch of forest and woods and mountains, and Albany's in the capital. And Siena College in particular has a big fan base. They play in an arena downtown. It's very
Right.
similar setup to Memphis, where the campus is out, in a neighborhood, and then they play downtown. It used to be called the Pepsi Center, but big arena. They host the NCAA
Right.
tournament there. We have a big loyal following. If you're winning and playing well, they love you, and you get free
Exactly.
drinks and meals, and everything is easy. If you're not winning, you either get fired or they are letting you know about it instantly. So,
Right.
but it's a good job. It's kind of a stepping stone job at Siena.
Sure.
Coaches that win there, they go on to Big East Conference,
Right.
Atlantic Coast Conference, Big Ten Conference, and get head coaching jobs where they triple, quadruple their salary. And so yeah, went up there and worked for him. Same role, director of operations. It was the way they have it set up there was technically a part-time job, so I had to work bartending in the summertime, but that was also entertaining and fun, and able to make some
Sure.
cash. And
Sure. How'd you get to Canada?
That was after Siena. So after Siena, I did 2 years there, and I was just kind of like I wasn't getting enough basketball. I guess that is how I would describe it. I wasn't able to coach quite as much as I would like,
Right.
and I just had that itch. And I'd been studying the game for a long time, and I wanted to be in a position of leadership. And I met who's now my mentor, a guy named Butch Carter. He used to coach in the NBA. And he was living in Canada, and they were starting up a professional basketball league up there, and he needed somebody young and hungry and willing to pack up and leave and move up
Right.
across the border. And I jumped on the opportunity, and it took us a year to launch the league, and I was able to be a head coach and general manager of the Scarborough Basketball Club after that first year of securing
What
facilities.
year was that?
That would be 2015, 16,
Oh, wow.
17, that,
Yeah.
that kind of stretch there. Like I said, we spent a full year securing facilities. We had 4 teams in our first year, so we had 4 game sites on different cities around Toronto. 4 practice facilities for each team. We had to get housing. We had to get 60 players up over the border, sign them to contracts. We were a FIBA league, so we played by FIBA
Right.
rules, and just going through a whole process of creating teams and building a program. Once I helped the league launch, I was able to shift into my specific
Right.
team.
Right.
But you know, auditioned and worked out dozens of players and went into the United States and bounced around to different cities to try
Right.
players out and sign them to contracts, and had a great season, won a championship, and had a lot of fun doing it.
So what made you leave?
We lost funding in our league.
Oh,
Minor league professional sports is a
right.
very, very difficult business. And like I said, it took us a year to launch. We had a great first season. We were all prepared to, grow the league by
Right.
almost double. Yeah, we're going to add 2 teams in Ontario, and then add 4 teams out west. And the people that were kind of our main backing, our main funders, backed out. They waited about 8 months, and then they relaunched with a different group. It's now called the Canadian Elite Basketball League,
Mhm.
and they play in the spring and summer. And they've been running for about 6 years now, and
Oh,
five
that's
years
good.
maybe. So they've been,
Yeah.
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 Drake actually bought the team that I used to coach. That came back out with Scarborough Basketball Club. So um, no, they're doing well. I think they're figuring out a way to make it work. It's like, again, minor league sports is extremely difficult. You have to create fans. You have to create a business.
Sure.
Very, very challenging, but I loved every second of it. Learned a million lessons, and
Exactly. And I
very
would
cool.
think that, it's also giving you exposure to another country, which will come
Absolutely.
in
Yep.
handy later.
Yep.
And, it gives you all these other things of like putting something together and building something from scratch and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't work and just putting you in touch with so many different people. So after that, is that when you joined the NBA assistant coaches program?
Yeah. As we were launching the league and starting
Okay.
that, my mentor was called in by the NBA to run what's called the NBA. It used to be called the Assistant Coaches Program. It's now called the Coaching Development Program.
Okay. Which actually makes more sense than
It does, yeah,
it
and that,
did.
that was a long, slow process that we had to do. That's right.
So tell me a little bit for those out there that maybe didn't know about it. What is the coaches development program? What is it?
It's kind of like there's the NBA league office, which runs the NBA. Then there's
Right.
30 franchises around it, and then there's the Players Association, which is the union for NBA players. If
Okay.
you're in the NBA or if you're 3 years out, and then there's a program within the union called the Legends, which is for every retired player.
Right.
Um, but the coaching development program is kind of like an extension from the NBA office to the Players Association to establish a program to help retired players and
Okay.
help with them with their transition. So there's a bunch of different ones. There's ones for former players that want to get into being an analyst or getting on TV, where they can kind of go through a class.
Sure.
There's ones for front office members. Ours was coaching specific, and you have to have played in the NBA, played in the G League, or played in the WNBA.
Okay.
So if you played in one of those leagues, you're eligible for the program. We would go through about a month, 2 months period in the spring, summer, where we would be, calling candidates that have applied or recruiting candidates that we want to be in the program. Kind of filtering through that interview process. We'd start with about 20 candidates, men and women, that played
Right.
NBA or WNBA. And then we start up in the fall. We start with online classes, teaching technology, how to break down film, how to study analytics and apply them to practice plans and game plans and individual player workouts, how to put together practice plans, how to put together workouts, how to prepare for opponents. Um, and so it's just a 6 month course where we're teaching these classes 2 nights a week. We do like an
Right.
East Coast call for about an hour, hour and a half, and then West Coast call for the people that live out in the Western time zone. And then we get together at all these events. There's an event in the middle of the year around Christmas called the G League Showcase, which is a tournament out in Vegas where all the
Right.
G League teams get together and play each other in a big tournament. So our coaches our participants are able to go out there and evaluate players and put together scouting reports. And then in the fall, or excuse me, going into the spring, there's Portsmouth Invitational,
Right.
which is for the top 64 college seniors. And our coaching candidates would get to coach in that. There's 8 teams of 8 players, and our
Right.
coaching candidates kind of their first opportunity to run a practice, do film sessions with their players, coach them through a game, do
Right.
substitutions and timeouts and adjustments and all that. And then there's the pre-draft combine, which has a G League event attached to it called the G League Elite Camp. That happens in May, and then the draft is in June, and then summer league
Right.
in late July. So ideally, our candidates would come out of that program at the end of the year, sometime in June and July, and they would have a job with a G
Sure.
League team or a WNBA team or an NBA team.
Right.
And we get, I think it's 3 apprenticeships where the league office splits their salary with whatever franchise accepts the candidate as onto their coaching staff. So we get 3 guaranteed positions, and then the rest of the candidates we're hoping to try to place somewhere
Right.
with a team and
Right.
help them start their career. So it was a great opportunity to be around the game, great opportunity to be around former pros. And it's actually where I met Coach Hardaway, Penny,
Yeah.
through a mutual friend. We got connected, asked him to speak to our group. He's a shining example as probably the best former player that's in coaching right now, uh,
Right.
in college for sure. And he was very generous with his time. He came on 2 separate occasions and spoke for almost an hour, answering questions. And these aren't podcast type things, interviews
Sure.
that you broadcast to the world. These
Right.
are more intimate, private
Right.
settings. And Coach Penny was just awesome. He just really
Right.
helpful with what his journey through his story going from retired playing middle school, AAU, high school into college, and possibly beyond, and just talking through, answering questions,
Hmm.
and it just gave us an opportunity to get in touch and keep in touch. And a couple years later, he had an opportunity to bring me onto his staff, so I jumped at it.
Joey Dorsey, former Memphis Tiger,
Right.
he coached at the Portsmouth thing and also at the draft combine.
Yeah, he's
I've
in the
been
program.
Yeah, I've been trying to get him on here,
Yeah,
and
we'll get him. I'll give him a nudge for sure.
and everybody, he keeps telling me, "I'm sorry, I'm so busy. I got to do this, this, and this."
No, we'll get him. We'll get him on. He's got time for you. Yeah. I mean, one of the first days I got to Memphis on the job, he was in the gym, and
Yes, that's how I met him.
I
Yeah.
bumped into him, and I just said, "Hey, man, like, what are you up to?" He's like, "I'm done playing." He had just got back from Barcelona, and I said,
Hmm.
"You would be perfect for the coaching development program. I just left
Yeah.
it. I still know everybody over there. I still help as whatever I can, but I can put you in touch with him." And he just kind of missed the window that first year, and then he ended up
Right.
coming to help us as a student manager and finished his degree, which
Right.
was really important for him. He helped us win a championship, and then he joined the coaches development program. And he's been doing a great job. He's gonna get with an NBA club, and he's gonna start his coaching career. So I'm really excited for him.
Yeah, let's put a plug in to get him on here.
Yeah, I'll
It's
do it.
not
I'll
that
reach out.
difficult. I'm not mean or anything.
No,
I
I was just
give you the
yeah,
questions ahead of time.
that's right. Now I was just at Portsmouth and the combine where he was, and I was around the program and was able to kind of see him behind the scenes. And
Right.
he's working his butt off, and he's got a natural ability to connect with people and coach. And I think he'll do a great job. So looking
He
forward to it.
does. He does. So that coaches development program is very essential to all the guys that are retiring coming out of the NBA.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
um, and talking to a lot of the players that we've had on here, they talked about how, when they stop playing, whether it's intentional, like their decision or not,
Mhm.
they feel lost. They don't know what to do after that, and they don't know where to turn. And a lot of times, everybody that they had played with or worked with just kind of turns them, turns away from them. So there are programs like that that I really think are really great to have. Let's dive into your role from head coach to general manager to director of operations. Like, which one, if any, are the most, it has been the most challenging for you?
Head coach by far. I mean, you learn more in one day as a head coach than you do in 3 months as any other role. It's just you're responsible for everybody, every staff member, every
Mhm.
player, all the players' parents and
It's
girlfriends
running a
and family
company.
members.
It's running a company, a
You are,
business.
and you're responsible for everybody's experience, and there's nothing like it. It's impossible to replicate. But again, these are different roles. I've been in, Canada's small minor league FIBA professional basketball. You're dealing
Right.
with 24 to 30-year-olds that are just trying to either start their career or prolong their career. So really unique environment there. Um, while I was working with the coaching development program, I spent time at a boarding school in Georgia, Raven Gap School, where I was a head coach of 16 to 19-year-old kids,
Hmm.
mostly international kids, Lithuanians and
Hmm.
Serbians and Slovenian kids and Caribbean kids. So I got a chance to meet some amazing people and young people. And but again, you're responsible for their parents, their uncle, their
Yeah.
girlfriend, their cousin, their every single
Everybody.
player,
Yes.
everybody involved in their lives. They want a piece of you. They want your time. They want to know why their kid's not playing well, or why he's not shooting it enough, or why he's injured, or whatever it might be. And then you're responsible for putting a plan together for getting everybody in shape, getting their skills refined, getting them to kind of come together as a group, and then go on this journey of a season where you're traveling all over, playing games and going on road trips and winning and losing games and learning a lot. And it's kind of your responsibility to keep everybody's spirits up and everybody continuing to
Yeah.
learn, grow, and get better. So um, that's always been the most fun, the most challenging by far.
Hmm.
But you get to different levels. Memphis is a big time college basketball
Right.
program. I'm responsible along with working with Coach Hardaway at his direction for how we're going to spend our budget, where we're going to travel to, who we're going to play, when we're going to practice, when we're going to work out, when we're going to play. Kind of scheduling all these things that have a huge impact on a lot of people. Our travel parties probably anywhere between 38 and 58 people on a
Right.
regular road trip, depending on if it's a donor trip or something else, it could get up to 75, 85 people. And you're responsible for everybody's room, everybody's meal, everybody's experience on the trip. And it's this is what I tell Coach all the time. It's like he'll be like, "Hey, where were you?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I wasn't at practice today because I want to make sure this trip goes well, because whatever happens on this trip, every single person's experience on the trip is a reflection of you. And
Sure.
if it goes poorly, they're going, man, what is Coach Hardaway doing?" But I try
I'm never going to give you a hard time
no,
again,
no,
ever,
no,
ever.
you never have. But I just try to go through, double check, triple check. Relying on hotels and buses and caterers and restaurants and hotel managers and cleaning ladies and men and just all kinds of stuff that goes into a
Right.
trip, and all the different people that are involved for making it go smoothly and professionally. And so you do a lot of double checking, a lot of
Right.
triple checking, uh, to try to make sure it goes smoothly. And so
Is
that
is
that
that a dog?
no, that's my phone.
Oh,
Keeps popping off. But there is just a lot going on, and you want it to go smoothly. You want coach to just be able to focus on the game and just be able to
sure.
focus on coaching the team, and any of those little distractions that come up, delayed flight or bus
Right.
flat tire or hotel not ready or meal not ready or whatever it might be. Those are things that just take away your focus to the game. And I try my best, me and the rest of the support staff, to try to get all that stuff squared away so that
Right.
we just can move in a professional manner and focus on competing.
How have you adapted your strategies and your methodologies to keep up with the evolving landscape of basketball?
I think NIL has turned it more to professional sports, which I'm
Mhm.
comfortable with. I'm used to. That aspect doesn't bother me at all. But we do turn our roster over pretty quickly. This is year two
Right.
here in Memphis, and we had a little bit of continuity last year with Malcolm and Jaden, but really very little
Right.
continuity. You're getting a whole new roster. You're getting a whole new group of guys in that you got to get to know and figure out what motivates them, and help put them in positions to be successful. So you have to communicate a little bit better. You have to pick and choose your spots about when you're going to try to build that relationship.
Mhm.
a lot of these players that we're getting now have played for 2 or 3 colleges. They played at 2 or 3 high schools. They played for 2 or 3 AAU teams. So by the time we get them at 21, 22 years old, they've played for, 15
A
different
lot of
coaches,
people. Yeah.
probably 50 assistant coaches. So, their kind of Rolodex, their mental Rolodex for relationships with coaches is a big one. And
Right.
you're a small piece of that, especially me in my position. I'm a really small piece of it, but I want to have a positive impact. I want to,
Sure.
help relay, Coach Hardaway's messaging and get everybody rowing in the same direction, or at least help with it. And it's challenging, but it's why it's a big time program, and there's a lot of pressure on us, and we have a lot of fans that want to see us do well. So we do our best to make that happen.
So you mentioned your coach, you're the head coach at Loyola, not Loyola, Siena.
Hmm. He
Um,
was.
yes. So you mentioned him, he was kind of a mentor. Like, who were some of your other mentors that you
Yeah, I think
have
Coach
taught?
Patsos was certainly instrumental and helpful in my playing career, and then my early coaching career. And then as I kind of moved on, I met Coach Butch Carter up in Canada, who helped give me my first head coaching job.
Right.
He also got me involved with the NBA through the coaching development program, and remains as a mentor to this day. Just kind of older guy. He's retired. He's seen it all. He coached high school, college, NBA. He's kind of climbed the mountaintop of coaching, so to speak, and he's able to give me some great perspectives and just kind of he calls himself an old book. And he's like, listen, if you
Right.
ever need me, you give me a call and I'll help talk you through whatever situation you got with your team or with your players or whatever's going on in your career at that moment. So he's been really helpful. Coach Hardaway's been tremendously helpful. I mean, he's somebody that is, as far as playing the game of basketball, you can't really find anybody more talented than him. You can find people that were similarly as talented. His career didn't pan out probably how he wants it to because of injury, but he's
Yeah.
seen, the lens that he sees the game through is unlike anybody else. So his feel for the game, his understanding for the game, I'm able to just try to stay in a room with him and soak it up as best I can, and be in the gym and listening when he's speaking
Yeah.
and he's coaching, and try to learn as much as possible. And it's been a blessing.
I will say I'm one of the, well, I don't know how few, but I got to see him play in college. I saw his
Yeah,
whole college
it's
career
it's tremendous.
up close
Tremendous.
and personal.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really great. Let's talk about Italy. And I think I just put 3 syllables into that.
That's it.
Um, um, how
They would
did you
too.
how did you get over there? Like how did you get that job? What was the job and what did you, because you were there prior to coming to Memphis,
That's right.
literally.
Yeah, with the coaches development program, you're just around the NBA. You're around
Mhm.
all the different programs that they have, and they have a new initiative that they launched about 3 years ago called NBA Basketball Schools, which are really just camps all
Right.
over the world. And I had a mutual friend that was he's director of basketball operations for NBA Europe, and he said, "Hey, we got these camps going this summer. Are you available?" I was at the time I was running the coaches program, which you can do really remotely,
Hmm.
outside of a couple of weeks a year where you got to meet on site, like at Portsmouth in the Combine. And then I was coaching at the boarding school. I had my own camp there, and the dates just lined up. It was
Right.
middle of June through the beginning of August. It was 7 or 8 weeks of camp, and you go for one week in one city, and then on Sunday you drive to the next city, or Saturday you drive to the next city. You
Wow.
set up camp Sunday, run camp Monday through Friday, drive Saturday to a new city, and do it again. So it was unbelievable. Wouldn't trade it for the world. I absolutely loved it. I would stay over there. If Penny hadn't called and said I want you to come to Memphis, I would have stayed over there and figured it out.
What was your favorite city in Italy?
Tough to say. I didn't see them all, but Bologna I thought was just kind of the
I
coolest,
mean,
most.
you're driving too. Like,
Yeah.
what a great way to see the
Oh,
country.
it was tremendous. And then each city you go to, there's a staff already waiting
Right.
for you, of local coaches and counselors that it's up to me to direct and manage and run the camp. But they were tremendous. Bologna is just not very many tourists, very local,
Right.
very unbelievable food, beautiful culture, beautiful
Do you
city.
speak Italian?
No, I picked up on some just like coaching
Yeah.
terms that I could use to kind of speed it up. But each camp, I would get one of the kids or one of the young people that spoke both English and Italian, and they would kind of help me translate. And
Yeah.
we figured it out, made it work, and had a lot of fun with it. And each week was its own little experience, different part of the country, different food, different
That's
culture.
pretty
Uh,
fun though. That's like your
oh,
own little,
it was
I
great.
don't know, Food Network tour
Oh, it was great. It was
with a
spectacular.
little
I
basketball in it. So
loved every second of it.
you get the call.
Yep, I had spoken to Coach right before I left. I was in Newark Airport, and he said, I may need you." And I said, "All right, well, like, I need to know because I'm getting ready to get on a plane. Like, do you need me like
Right.
today? Like, because if I cancel right now, I am gonna really upset these
That's
people
like almost
today."
saying we may have a date Saturday night.
Right, right. So he was like, "No, you're good. Like, do your thing. We'll catch up, in a couple weeks or whatever." So I was able to interview while I was in Rome. I was on a kind of a Zoom call and
Right.
with former Associate AD Adam Walker and our Chief of Staff Dwight Boyd. Uh, I thought the interview went smooth and everything went great, and they're kind of just checking to see, will you
Sure.
be able to handle Memphis? Will you be able to handle some of the players that we get? Like, I don't know. I've lived in Baltimore, Maryland. It's very similar. So I felt very comfortable.
Right.
And they, offered me the job about 2 weeks later and accepted it on the spot. And then I just started making my way back. Long journey to get back and get to Memphis, but was able
Yeah.
to get back there end of July, early August, and get settled and figured
I
out.
think we met you. You'd been here, I think, just a few days, and we
Yeah,
pulled you into the conference room at Lori
right.
Walton and we're like, hey, you need to know who we are. And you had
Yeah,
this look on your face like, I don't
yeah,
even know where I am.
yeah. No, definitely. And I'm like, well, I'd love to be involved as much as possible with the rebounders. And I see how much you guys do and how hard you guys work. And I'm like, I have no chance of keeping up with you guys. So
Okay.
let me
So
just focus on what I'm doing.
the funniest thing was we have a group text
Oh yeah.
and you were like, sure, put me in it. And I remember Marvin going, are you sure? And you were like, yes.
Yeah, no, and I learned quickly to just mute. No, no offense, but just mute
Oh,
the
no.
rebounders group chat. And then occasionally, I'll kind of scroll through it at night and just see if is there anything I need to comment on, and if occasionally I'll throw in a little joke or do something silly just to keep you guys
The
keep it fun.
funniest thing I think recently, well, it was a year ago, was the Nike EYBL. And you were like giving us because Sonia had seen, not Dr. Dre, who was it? Older rapper. He had his son at the thing.
Hmm.
Can't think of the name. Anyway, it was like 10:30 at night, and she's like, she and I were the only two chatting, and you like pop in with like all this trivia.
Yeah,
And we're like, Garrett.
yeah. There you are. Yeah. No, I have a lot of useless trivia, especially around basketball and some music. But no. I always see how hard you guys work. I see how much you
It
guys
gets
care.
exhausting. Yeah.
I can imagine, but I can't tell you how appreciative the staff and the players are because that's what makes Memphis unique is the fans.
Sure.
It is a
Sure.
unique city, but it's ultimately the fan base. There's generational fans. You see the Memphis Tiger, literally statues all over the city, the gear all over the city,
Right.
old people, young people, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, old, young, every single walk of life, and they're all Tigers fans. And you guys are really at the core of it because you're the ones that really drive it. So
Right.
can't thank you guys enough. And I know we don't show our appreciation as much as we should or as we can, but you guys are our loyal core fans that are you guys move the needle for us and make the players feel welcome and special.
It's interesting because somebody asked me when I moved back from Houston, like, why did I get involved back with basketball? And I'm like, you don't understand. I remember what it was like back in the late 80s, early 90s when
Mhm.
we were doing so well. You would be wherever you were in the city, everybody talked to each other.
Sure.
Everybody was high-fiving you. It didn't matter your color, your religion, your
Yeah, it brings
ethnicity.
people together.
It
I mean,
does.
that's the special thing of sports in general, but in
Yes.
particular here in Memphis,
Yes.
where there's a lot of turmoil, a lot of strife,
Yes.
a lot of people having a hard time. I had my brother's in-laws. They lived here for a long time, and he would talk about when the Tigers win, everybody would go around honking right when the game was over. If
Right.
you listen to the game
Yes.
on the radio, they would start honking their horns. So you'd be, out in Memphis doing something, and you'd all of a sudden hear honking all over the
And
place.
we know immediately what
Tigers.
that means. Yes.
and it's cool. But I'm a historian. Like I said, I'm passionate about basketball. I love the game. I have so much respect for people that have done it at a high level and have committed their lives to it. But
Right.
you can look up on our practice facility wall and you can see when the Tigers were really special. And it
Hmm.
kind of goes in these almost like 10-year waves, whether it be because a coach, usually it's
Right.
the talented players, but it's usually comes with a coach too.
Sure.
Coach comes along, hits a stride, gets it figured out, and they win games. And then leaves or something happens or whatever it may
Right.
be. And then, 6, 7, 8 years, 10 years go by, and then all of a sudden they get good again.
Right.
So you can see 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. You can see where the Tigers have been successful, and it's
Right.
kind of breaks up into these 10-year kind of spouts. And I think we're right at the cusp of another one of those. I think Coach Hardaway has gone through a ton of turmoil throughout his coaching career here at Memphis. A bunch of changes in the rules, a bunch of changes in
Right.
how things work. Transfer portal, COVID year,
COVID. Yeah. Everything.
NCAA just
Yeah.
relentlessly being on
Yeah.
top of him from the day he accepted the job because of the James Wiseman stuff. So he's battled all those things, and I think I noticed in the coaching development program, working with high level
Hmm.
professionals, NBA players in particular, they are extremely good problem solvers. And if you give them enough time, they're hyper competitive. Everybody says that they're
Right.
competitive and they hate
Right.
to lose, but professional athletes at the highest level are a totally different breed. They do not like to lose. They won't accept it, and
They don't.
they will study how and why, and they will go back and correct it. And it's just a matter of time. And I think you're seeing Coach Hardaway really starting to hit his stride from a leadership and coaching standpoint on that. So
I
excited to
think,
be around it.
I think that is, and I don't know if I don't obviously don't know enough about football, but from the people I've talked to that are elite basketball players, it is such a mental game that I don't think people realize that.
No, absolutely.
And I think that that comes with that. They are so used to figuring it out on the court in their head that
Mhm.
that's just the way they take it when they become coaches.
Absolutely.
They
And
take
and
that
as
stuff.
a player, you have usually four other players with you on the court at that time, but maybe there's one or two guys that come off the bench that you need to
Right.
kind of
Right.
factor in and not manipulate, but you need to. And Coach Hardaway is the ultimate point guard. He's trying to get, Sandy open shots. He's trying to get Sonya a couple touches. He's trying to, just spread the ball, make everybody
Right.
feel welcomed and a part of it so they can play well. And now as a coach, you got to do that with the, 8 or 10 players that you
Sure.
play on a regular basis. You got to do it with 10 different staff
Right.
members. You got to do it with, there's a big group that you're responsible for kind of, maestro or orchestrating and just running and directing, and he seems to keep getting better and better and better and better, which is really cool to watch.
So let's talk about two last things. What
Okay.
do you think your value is today, now?
Um, I think I consider myself an encourager. My father was, my mother is, and I bring encouragement, positive energy, enthusiasm every day. I have it almost like an unlimited tank, but at the end of the night, I do crash and go to sleep. But I wake up ready to roll and ready
Right.
to have fun, ready to bring a positive attitude. And over the course of a basketball season, there's injuries, there's wins, there's losses. It's easy
Right.
to be happy when you win. It's really tough when you lose.
Right.
And I think I try to bring a kind of even keeled of
Sure.
enthusiasm, encouragement, positive reinforcement, um, and that I try to bring that as my value. But I love to compete, so whatever it
Mhm.
is,
Right.
little shooting competition, little this, little whatever it is
I,
that
I believe
I
you
love.
play a little golf.
I do. I try to. I'm not very
Right.
good, but I try. But just whatever it is, I try to compete and bring a refreshing, positive attitude to competition.
Okay, last question.
Yep.
What would you tell, and I forgot to change the name. What would you tell a 9-year-old Garrett?
Um, I mean, 9, 10 years old is right when I really started to get serious about basketball and care about it and understand it. 10 years old is kind of like, if you
Hmm.
go back, you'll see that's when everybody kind of forms.
Right.
You become able to move and lift stuff and do stuff, and you start to really form the things that are going to shape your future. I probably wouldn't tell them, I just tell them keep going, encourage them, and have fun with it. And I've tried to do that pretty much every day. And jobs change, you move, you go to different
Sure.
countries, you go to different places. But I think if you bring some genuine, positive enthusiasm, then you can pretty much do whatever you want.
I think I do that with the rebounders. I have a little thing where I always like to end the meetings with like "Go team,"
Yeah. Yeah.
a little bit of boost there.
Yep.
Um, Garrett, thank you so much for being on the show today. Don't leave just yet. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. First, I hope of many of the staff from the because I've already interviewed the entire women's staff.
Oh, great.
I did
Great.
them last fall. Like
Oh, great.
interviewed every single one of them.
Excellent. Well, I'm now following your podcast page so I can see when you have ones coming out. I
Thanks
didn't know
to
about that.
Zach.
Yep, Zach has opened up all sorts of avenues. But I want to say thank you, Sandy, one, for being an awesome, awesome fan and friend of the program. And again, the work that you guys do as the rebounders is really the backbone of the fans for the University of Memphis. As we get new recruits, people say what's up to them, but when the rebounders reach out and say hello, like it's just a big deal. It
Yeah.
makes kids feel special. It makes staff members feel special. It makes the team feel special. So the work you guys do, the passion you guys have is never not noticed, and it is always appreciated.
We'll remind you of that.
Absolutely.
When the season starts back.
Right.
Okay, as we wrap up this episode, thank you all for listening, especially if you've made it all the way to this part of the show. I so appreciate all of your support. And what would be a huge cherry on the top of that milkshake? I know that's crazy. If you could take 60 seconds and give the show a review on Apple, it helps the show get found. And I love to read all of the notes. My mantra is like, share, and review. Until next time, remember, change is our ally and it paves the way for greatness. Stay inspired. Have a great rest of the week.